If you're thinking about moving up to the new Olympus Pen E-PL7 from a point and shoot or even from an earlier Olympus Micro Four Thirds camera with one of the 12.3 megapixel sensors, and you're wondering if image quality is noticeably better, the answer is yes. Hi, I'm Larry Becker. There are a lot of reasons you might like this camera, but there are three big reasons I like the new Olympus Micro Four Thirds camera, the E-PL7. Image quality, great design, and a really nice collection of available lenses. I'll take you through the key features. We'll have a look at image quality and the thoughtful layout of this camera. Then we'll talk about lenses, especially the two I tested with the E-PL7, and we'll wrap up with an overview of Wi-Fi, accessories, and more. The Olympus E-PL7 has a 16 megapixel live MOS sensor, and it's powered by their TruePic 7 image processor. It has a great 3-inch 1.04 million dot LCD, but I'll tell you more about that in the layout portion of the review. The ISO range is stronger than I expected at 100 to 25,600. And since Micro Four Thirds lenses don't usually have onboard optical image stabilization, it's nice that the E-PL7 has 3-axis in-body image stabilization. The autofocus system is the same as with the OMD EM10 with 81 points. It's especially fast, it's highly controllable, and it's accurate in my testing. There are a couple of more ways the autofocus system of the E-PL7 is impressive. In manual focus mode, you can optionally turn on focus assist magnification so that a turn of the focus ring automatically zooms in to help you. And you can also turn on focus peaking to highlight edges that are in focus. I also tried out a similar function that's available during autofocus. It magnifies the autofocus point so that you can inspect it and potentially move the focus point while you're zoomed in, so it's even more precise. The E-PL7 can capture those full-size 16 megapixel images in bursts up to 8 frames a second, but the focus and exposure are going to be locked with the first image. You'll get about 20 frames before the buffer fills up and shooting slows down, but I was surprised that it still kept shooting at what seemed like 2 or 3 frames a second. And because there was never any image blackout, you could keep following your subject the whole time. The E-PL7 has shooting modes like you'd expect: programmed auto, aperture priority, shutter priority, and full manual, as well as full auto. It also has the ability to apply any one of 14 art filters during shooting. There's a scene mode so that you can tell the camera about the scene and then it'll optimize settings for that scene. You might have noticed that there's no programmable shooting mode dial position, but there are 4 menu slots for saving many shooting-related settings, and those are called My Set. The quality of my test images was right up there with what I would expect from a 16 megapixel APS-C size sensor. There was strong image detail and color accuracy across the entire image area. Shadow detail was surprisingly good, and even subtle areas of color were pleasing to the eye. The images from this Olympus didn't seem to suffer from any colors that were too punchy, like I've seen with some other cameras I've tested. This is a brand new camera, and while it captures RAW files, even the beta of Adobe Camera Raw 8.7 didn't have a profile yet for these RAW files, so I didn't use my regular image processing workflow. Normally when that happens, then during a review I'm careful to hedge my image quality claims just a little bit. I don't feel compelled to do that though with the E-PL7 because the JPEG image quality is so good. When I first opened test images, it was about what I expected, but the default isn't the best quality JPEG processing available. Then I turned it up from full-size normal to full-size fine, and the images were noticeably better. And the high ISO, low light was also surprisingly good. I found that images up to ISO 3200 were quite good, and you might even be able to use images up to the top at 25,600 if you can scale those images down by 50%. But here's the thing. If you're used to most point-and-shoot phone camera images, those highest ISO images of the E-PL7 will look like the typical ISO 400 images from a smaller sensor, like a point-and-shoot. If somebody just brought me images from the E-PL7 and then they told me they were from an APS-C sensor camera, I'd find that easily believable. Video quality from the Olympus Pen E-PL7 is also good. Actually, it was a little better than I expected, and maybe some of that is because of the image stabilization and better low light capabilities of the sensor. Videos can be up to 1080p 30. It's nice enough for casual video, but it's not likely to be a camera which pro videographers will use very much. While there's no built-in mic jack, there is an optional add-on, and we'll talk about that in the accessories section. One thing I should point out is that in my video recording, I tested it with the 14-42 kit lens, and that lens was absolutely silent while grabbing focus during filming. It was also pretty accurate at recapturing focus quickly when I zoomed during filming because I was trying to push the capabilities a bit, and it was a nice surprise. Based on having handled and used hundreds of cameras over the years, I find the layout and controls of this camera to be especially good. Starting with the grip, the right-hand thumb grip and the front side finger grips are nice because this camera is a bit heavier than you might expect. It feels very solid and sturdy though. I like that all the controls and buttons are easily reachable with your right hand, so you can hold it with your left hand and use your right hand to reach all the controls. The SD card and the battery both go in the same slot on the bottom of the camera, but there's enough room between the ⅛ socket and the opening that you can probably have this mounted on a tripod and still reach the battery and memory card. There's no built-in pop-up flash, but there is a hot shoe, and you can use that with the supplied FL-LM1 flash unit or add-on flashes. And while it looks small, the navigator joystick, they call it the Aero Pad, works well, and it's not too small for big thumbs. And the control dial around the shutter button is also surprisingly convenient. The Olympus E-PL7 doesn't come with an electronic viewfinder, so the LCD needs to be very good. It is. It's a 1.04 million dot screen that can tilt up and down 180 degrees. Besides the usefulness for low and high angle shooting, you can also see the screen below the camera from in front of it. Of course, Olympus marketing includes the word selfie to describe that function. The fact that the screen is a touch screen is a big part of why I like it. It can do touch focus and touch shutter, and it's especially convenient during playback for swiping left and right to navigate through your images. Now, it doesn't recognize pinch zoom, but if you just double tap the screen and then use the slider on the right, zooming works just fine for image review. I'm usually disappointed when a camera touchscreen can't be used for menus, and while you can't use the touchscreen on this camera for menus either, Olympus has a really cool live view super control panel that you can enable in some or all of the shooting modes. It's like a quick access control panel which does work with touch. It's off by default, so make sure that you find it in the menus as soon as you get your camera and turn it on. The Olympus menus in the E-PL7 are reasonably intuitive and easy to navigate, but they don't automatically include everything that advanced users would want. You'll need to go in and turn on the gear menu in order to access most of the advanced controls and settings. Additionally, if you use any extra gear that uses the camera accessories port, you'll need to activate that menu as well. So you can tell I really like the ergonomics of this camera, but there's no such thing as perfect. And there are a couple small things you might notice. First, to see the LCD screen from the front, somebody has to be holding the camera. That flip down position doesn't work with a tripod or sitting on a table. The only other thing I wish is that the shooting mode dial had a lock so that you don't accidentally bump it. Lenses are one of the real strengths of the Micro Four Thirds form factor. There's a nice selection and most of the lenses are very good quality. And there are mount adapters that give you even more choices. I had a chance to shoot with two different lenses while testing the E-PL7, and the first was a versatile zoom lens that came with my kit. It's an Mzuiko 14-42 f3.5 to 5.6 lens. With the 2x crop factor, that gives you a versatile 28 to 84 millimeter equivalent zoom. Coupled with this camera, The focusing was fast and the image clarity and optical characteristics seemed quite good and sharp across the frame and throughout the entire zoom range. The lens has to be deployed with a partial zoom twist before you can use it, but I really like the lock switch on the lens barrel because it locks the lens into the usable position once it's deployed, not in the storage position. That way, while you're using it, you don't accidentally twist it into the storage position and make the camera unusable, especially when you just wanted a wide zoom. The other lens I tested with this camera was the Zuiko 17mm f1.8 lens. That's a 34mm equivalent. This is a beautiful artistic lens, and I was able to get a much shallower depth of field and soft bokeh than I expected from this size image sensor. You'll be shooting some impressive portraits and still lifes with this lens. Built-in Wi-Fi is almost always a nice extra, and with the way Olympus implements Wi-Fi, it's a real strength. First of all, it's easy to set up because the connection is triggered with a QR code on the camera that talks to the app on your smart device. Additionally, that app lets you control several aspects of the camera during remote shooting, and of course, you can send images to your smart device for posting online. The hot shoe port is both a standard form factor and an Olympus accessory port because it can accept small flashes as well as other Olympus accessories. For instance, you can add a special microphone adapter kit that comes with a mic, or you can plug in an 1/8" mic into it. There's a special pair of LED lights on bendable extensions that are used for macro photography lighting. And there are several electronic viewfinders that work with the E-PL7. I'd pick up a VF3 or VF4 because as good as that LCD touchscreen is, bright sunshine photography is always going to be better with a viewfinder. The only downside to all these cool gadgets that work with the accessory port is that an EVF or a microphone will keep you from adding a flash at the same time. Finally, I love a good manual, and the PDF manual that comes on the supplied CD is well written and comprehensive enough to answer your questions. The 16-megapixel images that I got from the Olympus Pen E-PL7 are right there with DSLR images. And with all the lens and accessory options, Olympus Micro Four Thirds cameras like this are a smart choice. For B&H and Kelby One, I'm Larry Becker. Thanks for watching.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.
Scott Kelby here, and welcome to this quick tour of our online training. We have hundreds of online classes for you covering everything from lighting to landscape photography. From portrait photography to sports, we have classes on wedding, automotive photography, shooting, food, fashion, travel, you name it. The most incredible part of this is the price. You get all of this for just $199 a year, or you can pay monthly for just $24.95. 24-hour a day, 7-day a week access from anywhere in the world. I invite you to join with us today and start learning right now.